What if I told you that everything we thought we knew about the universe, about comets, about planets, about safety in the night sky was a lie? They said it was harmless, a glowing traveler from the deep, a silent comet named 3 Atlas, destined to pass, wave its icy tail, and disappear forever into the dark. But the cosmos does not send harmless things without purpose. And this is no comet. James Webb's unblinking eye has revealed the unthinkable. 3 Atlas is shifting course. Not by chance. Not by gravity. By intent. Its gas doesn't flare like ice cracking in the sun. It pulses, precise, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a machine. Every burst is a maneuver. Every move is a decision. And now its path points directly at Mars. This isn't a rock. This isn't a fragment of space. This is something built, something steering, something that has chosen its target. And for the first time in history, humanity stands on the edge of a question we are not ready to answer. What if the universe is not empty? When astronomers first spotted 3 Atlas on July 1st, it looked like any other streak of light crossing the void. A cosmic blur with a glowing halo, tearing through space at unimaginable speeds. 87 kilometers per second. Fast enough to cross the distance between Earth and the Moon in less than 80 minutes. A breathtaking discovery, but nothing unusual. At least that's what they thought. Comets don't speed up. They break apart. They fade. They drift like forgotten relics of creation. But 3 Atlas did something no comet should ever do. It began to accelerate. Slowly, consistently, as if some invisible hand was tightening its grip, steering it like a ship through black seas. And then came the light. Its halo doubled in brightness, flaring like a controlled ignition. Webb's instruments revealed ultraviolet spikes and violent surges of CO2 unlike anything ever seen. Not chaos, not a chance. Design. Then came the revelation that froze every scientist in their tracks. Deep within the tail, hidden in the exhaust, were pulses. Not random bursts of gas, but precise, deliberate thrusts, spaced every 17 minutes. Like an engine firing, like a countdown ticking. 3 Atlas wasn't just moving, it was signaling. And with every whisper of thrust, its aim sharpened, pulling the red planet into its crosshairs. This was no comet wandering blind. This was a machine, awake in the dark, making choices. The universe had just spoken, and its voice was aimed at Mars. The numbers never lie. And when NASA, Webb, and Gemini South locked onto 3 Atlas, the story those numbers told was terrifying. At first, scientists calculated a near miss, cosmic brush. But then the data shifted. The safe margin collapsed. The new projection? A razor-thin distance, less than 2 million kilometers from Mars. On the cosmic scale, that isn't a miss. It's a hair's breadth. And then came the simulations. They showed that even the slightest push, just a whisper of velocity, a fraction of the power 3 Atlas was already unleashing, could alter its course into a direct strike. Think about that. A rock the size of mountains, guided with the precision of a spacecraft, making microscopic corrections as if it already knew the coordinates. This wasn't gravity. This wasn't luck. It was aiming. Every pulse, every adjustment, aligned perfectly with Mars's orbital plane, as though the planet wasn't just a target, but a destination. And the window was closing. Between September 19th and September 30th, a single outburst, one perfectly timed pulse, could decide the fate of the red world. The whispers spread quickly. This isn't random. This isn't natural. 3 Atlas is behaving like a probe. If that's true, then Mars is no longer a planet waiting for impact. It is the bullseye of an intelligence we cannot see. And we, from Earth, are forced to watch a precision strike unfold. Helpless, unprepared, and out of time. The alarm was no longer the domain of conspiracy forums or sci-fi dreamers. This time, the voices came from the ivory towers of science itself. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb and his team broke the silence with a single, daring claim. 3 Atlas might not be a comet at all, but an engineered probe. The evidence was undeniable. Radar scans from NASA's Goldstone antennas and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter bounced off the object and returned something no comet had ever revealed. metallic echoes. Not the soft, watery signatures of ice and dust. Something sharper, something built. And then came the images. Amateur astronomers, using high-exposure techniques, captured streaks of light impossible to ignore. 3 luminous beams, needle-thin, glowing green, lancing outward from the comet's body and converging toward Mars. Not random, not chaotic, perfectly synchronized with the 17-minute gas bursts. It wasn't just moving, it was aiming. And whatever it was aiming with, it wasn't natural. The whispers hardened into certainty. This was not a rock, not a fragment, not debris from the stars. This was a machine with intent. But intent to do what? Crash? Deliver something? Release spores, signals, or probes into Martian soil? No one could say. What they could say was this: Mars was being approached with surgical precision. Every move is calculated. Every burst was deliberate. And humanity? We weren't in control. We weren't even participants. We were spectators at a play unfolding on a stage 225 million kilometers away. A play written by an intelligence we don't understand. For the first time, the thought became unavoidable: we are not alone. What happens if 3 Atlas doesn't miss? The answer is almost too vast for the human mind to grasp. Estimates place its mass at nearly 10 billion tons, hurtling at over 57 kilometers per second relative to Mars. If it strikes, the explosion would unleash more than 2 million megatons of energy, thousands of times greater than the most powerful nuclear detonation ever unleashed on Earth. The result? A crater 60 kilometers wide, 5 kilometers deep, gouged into the red planet like a scar of fire and stone. Debris would leap into orbit, scattering like shrapnel through space. Some of it would be flung outward into the solar system. And yes, some of it could eventually find its way to Earth. But rocks and dust are only the beginning. Mars is not empty. It carries decades of human investment, orbiters, rovers, communication relays, climate studies, entire lifetimes of data. In one blinding instant, all of it could be erased, buried under a storm of molten debris. Humanity's eyes on Mars would go dark. Our decades of exploration, silenced in a single heartbeat. And then comes the truly terrifying unknown: biology. For years, scientists have suspected Mars once harbored life. Perhaps still does, deep beneath its frozen crust. Subsurface lakes, microbes locked in permafrost, ancient ecosystems waiting to be uncovered. But if 3 Atlas crashes, the impact will rip open those hidden layers, exposing what has been sealed for billions of years. Worse still, if 3 Atlas carries something of its own, organic or engineered, it could seed Mars deliberately. At that moment, Mars ceases to be a planet of curiosity. It becomes a laboratory, or worse, a battlefield. For decades, Mars has been the great question mark of life beyond Earth. Ancient riverbeds, frozen seas, whispers of microbes locked beneath the crust. Enough to make us wonder, but never enough to prove. That uncertainty is why we sent rovers, orbiters, and landers, each one searching for proof that Mars once lived, or still does. But if 3 Atlas strikes, that question will no longer be science. It will become survival. The heat of impact would not just scorch the surface. It would tear open the hidden reservoirs beneath, releasing subsurface lakes and dormant life forms sealed for eons. In seconds, Mars would become a biological unknown. A planet cracked open, bleeding secrets we were never ready to confront. And here is where the horror deepens. What if 3 Atlas isn't bringing destruction at all? What if it is bringing life? Its tail already carries suspicious organic molecules, some behaving unlike anything found in natural comets. If those molecules are intentional, spores, seeds, or even synthetic DNA, then the object isn't a weapon. It's a delivery system. Biologists have a word for this: panspermia. Life carried across the cosmos by celestial messengers. But this would not be natural panspermia. This would be deliberate panspermia in reverse. Not life spreading from Mars outward, but something foreign being planted within Mars, using the planet itself as an incubator. It forces a terrifying question. What if the goal was never to destroy Mars? What if the goal was to awaken it? to turn it into something new, a world remade, seeded, reshaped into a design not our own? If that is true, then Mars isn't just a target. It's a nursery, and the birth it's about to host may change everything. As 3 Atlas drew closer, James Webb turned its unmatched eye on the object one last time, capturing an ultra-deep scan so sensitive it could dissect the chemistry of a star. What it found was so unsettling, the data was locked under classification for nearly 2 days before fragments were released to the public. But whispers leaked, and the truth was darker than anyone imagined. Within the glowing trail of gas and dust, Webb detected synthetic polymers, molecules resembling Earth-made plastics, and even strands of carbon nanotubes. Not naturally formed ices, not chaotic space debris, engineered material, layered atop that were isotopic anomalies, carbon and hydrogen ratios that matched no known object in our solar system. It was as if 3 Atlas had been assembled, not born, crafted with intent, carrying compounds that should not exist in the vacuum of space. And that wasn't all. The polymers were intertwined with volatile organics, complex carbon chains structured like scaffolding, as though the object wasn't just holding together, but carrying something inside it, a payload hidden within its shimmering skin. Every test screamed the same conclusion. This was no natural body. And yet, it was barreling toward a planet that might still harbor its own fragile biology. Emergency task forces were convened across the globe, not to stop 3 Atlas because no one knew how, but to decide what it meant. Was this a probe? A weapon? A seed? Humanity had no answers. What we did know was chilling. 3 Atlas carried the fingerprints of intelligence, and it was heading straight for Mars, a world that might not be dead, but alive. As panic spread through scientific circles and headlines began to tremble with speculation, NASA did something no one expected. It went quiet. The familiar stream of press releases stopped. The daily telemetry from Perseverance and Tianwen-1 showed mysterious gaps. Questions about impact probabilities were brushed aside, redirected, or ignored. Curtain had fallen. Something had changed, but no one on the outside was being told what. And then came the leak. A classified transmission, slipped from the shadows by a whistleblower, carried just 3 words: Impact Protocol Initiated. The phrase sent shockwaves through the community. What did it mean? Was there a hidden plan, a defense system we had never been told about? Or was it something darker? An admission that nothing could be done, and all that remained was containment, control, and silence? But soon another detail emerged. Insiders whispered that encrypted signals had been sent from Earth to every operational asset on Mars. Orbiters, landers, rovers, even dormant systems buried beneath Martian dust. Why? There is no known technology capable of deflecting or intercepting 3 Atlas. Unless the signals weren't meant to protect Mars. They were meant to prepare it. If 3 Atlas is intelligent, even semi-autonomous, then it may not be responding to us by accident. It may be listening to energy signatures, to pulses, to coded signals. And if that's true, then Earth just revealed something far more dangerous. Not only that we're watching, but that we are responding. In that moment, the unthinkable became possible. The intelligence behind 3 Atlas, whatever it is, now knows we are aware. And the question is no longer what it is bringing to Mars, but what it might now expect from us. While governments stayed silent and the public stared upward in dread, a small team at the SETI Institute did something radical. They stopped thinking of 3 Atlas as an object and started treating it as a signal. They fed its flight path, its velocity, its gravitational vectors, its timing, all the data every astronomer on Earth had been staring at for months, into a computer. But instead of running orbital simulations, they ran it through compression algorithms designed for deep space messaging. The output stunned them. What emerged wasn't random. It was structured, repeating, nested, patterns hidden in the numbers like a code hidden in plain sight. Atomic numbers: 6, 8, 14, 26, carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron. The building blocks of life and machines alike. Interspersed among them were prime number countdowns and spacings identical to recursive communication protocols. In short, 3 Atlas's entire trajectory might be a message, not in radio waves, but in motion itself. A sentence written across the solar system in thrusts and timing and presence. If that's true, then we're not simply observing a comet aiming for Mars. We're witnessing a conversation. The impact window itself may be part of the syntax. If it strikes, that's one answer. If it misses, that's another. Every pulse, every maneuver, every alignment, not just propulsion but punctuation. For the first time, humanity had to face the unthinkable. The 3 Atlas isn't just approaching Mars. It's telling us something. And the final word in its message may not be spoken. It may be felt. As astronomers traced 3 Atlas's projected descent, a disturbing coincidence emerged. Its path wasn't random at all. It was threading through a narrow celestial corridor, a line that passed directly above a region on Mars known as Elysium Planitia. At first glance, it's just another stretch of Martian desert. But zoom in and it reveals something far stranger. Perfect concentric ridges, spiral-like flows, patterns etched into the ground that resemble Fibonacci spirals, the same mathematical sequence that governs seashells, galaxies, and the coils of DNA itself. In the very center lies a small, perfectly circular depression, only 3.5 kilometers across. No volcanic residue, no impact debris, just a flawless ring, sitting like a target on Mars's skin. For years, geologists dismissed it as coincidence, a quirk of nature. But now the projected descent line of 3 Atlas passes directly over it, striking its center with chilling precision. Even stranger, the basin contains crystalline silicates with unusual refractive properties. When hit by solar radiation, they emit regular pulses of infrared light. Not random, not chaotic, rhythmic, like a signal waiting to be answered. Suddenly, the question became unavoidable. Was this formation natural? Or was it a beacon, coordinates planted long before humanity ever looked skyward? If it is, then 3 Atlas isn't just coming to Mars. It's coming home, and Mars itself, silent for billions of years, may.